Hey everyone, so it's been a couple of months since we did a video. We have had a lot of issues, so we've had all kinds of cloud hardware problems, fans going out, drives, you name it, it's happened. My main PC went out, I still haven't fixed it. Just a lot of different things, different projects going on in the last couple of months. Plus, the software, it's had a few issues here and there with the Openstack and the landscape installer, been troubleshooting that. And if you read some of the comments lately, I think what we ran into is the hardware is kind of uh, stretched beyond its means. So what I did was is I found somebody on eBay that sold me 12 gig of RAM for less than $60, so that was a good deal. So I bumped three of the machines up to 8 gig. So we have a couple that have 6, one that has 7, and the rest of them all have 8. I moved some stuff around to try to even the nodes out. We also have an additional node now, which we got a couple of months ago. So with that, the hardware now seems to be stable and has enough power to bootstrap and deploy the cloud. So that's kind of a patch for now. I also think we're running into some network collision, but I haven't got another switch, and we'll revisit that later. It might become an issue, but for now, I think we're in a good spot. So with that said, I also want to thank everybody who donated and who supports the channel and gets, it posts comments and we talk about their clouds and I appreciate all that and everybody being interactive in this project. So where we're going to start today is where we left off a couple videos ago. The quick 1.9 MAS 1404 uh, Ubuntu Bootstrap. So this is after you've run the OpenStack install and you've got your IP ready to log in. So we'll go ahead and log into that. And I probably got one up here. Okay, so we're here. This should all come back. It'll come back green here in a moment. Let's take a look at mass. Okay, so I've still got all these marked broken. So I marked all these broken so that when I bootstrapped, it would select the node that I wanted it to. It's kind of a trick, a lazy trick to get it to do what you want. Instead of using that GG Bootstrap 2 option, I just do this, but you can mark them fixed. So while that's working, and this while this is deciding what it wants to do, there's a couple things. So there's actually just one main thing that I ran into that I wanted to share with you guys. So as I bootstrapped over and over and over and deployed over and over and over, I started seeing messages in the syslog. Take a look at var log syslog. I would get these messages that it was out of leases. It just keeps running out of leases, running out of leases. Uh, so that's because it wouldn't really. It was. I think it has like a default 24-hour to hold the DHCP lease for the IP. So if you bootstrap and then you can it and then you want to bootstrap again, it's still holding on to all those IPs. So we were running out. So I was getting that error in here. So as to resolve it, so if you go to MAS and go to uh, clusters, and then you go to cluster master, edit that private interface. So before I was telling everybody to set this dynamic range, the first one to be 101, and I did that just so that the range would start after the gateway IP, but you really don't need to do that. So what I did was I backed it up to .1, so that gives me an extra 100 addresses. It will jump over that gateway IP, so that's not a big deal. And then I also ran it all the way to 229, so that gives me more addresses to pick from. That helps the issue. And then I shortened the static range from 230 to 254 because you don't need that many static IPs. So gives me a little more room in the dynamic, shortens the static. So I did that, but then also, and it's on one of our web pages. Also, I went in and took a look at the DHCP config, and this is already out there on the page. But if you take a look at this file, it's actually a template to create this other DHCP comp file, but you want to edit the template because it'll wipe out the config file if you edit it on reboot. So come down here and you can edit this, but so it's already up here actually. Let's jump back up. So this is for the Pixie boot. It has a default and a max lease time. But I also added the default and the max lease time for the actual IP range for DHCP. So I'm just going to paste that in there. Just paste it right after this. And I set them for 300, so that gives us right at 5 minutes. Because it'll take, this is seconds, by the way. It'll take 5 minutes, after you bootstrap for them to release, but it usually takes 5 minutes to get set up to do it again anyway. So that's a pretty good range. So I put that in there so that they would release faster. So we can exit this, and it's probably just a good idea to go ahead and reboot after you make that change. Okay, we're back. Go ahead and take a look at syslog again. You'll notice it's going to be kind of noisy. It's a little more overhead on the server to have to do this repeatedly, but for a testing environment, it's worth it to not have to wait for these releases to give up. So that's really the only change that I made in this configuration. So back to bootstrapping, or deploying, I guess. So let's refresh here. So all the check marks are green, everything's good. Let's configure. So that's still our only hypervisor, KVM. Open vSwitch, you can take the defaults. I have tried to test with Swift, but Swift is just too heavy. It has to have 3 copies of the data at all times, and I haven't successfully been able to test with it. So we're still going to go with Ceph for object and block. And to keep the overhead as low as possible, I'm not going to add this new performance monitor. I think you can add it afterwards, so we can test that later. So let's add hardware. We're just going to add everything. You'll notice since we have 6 nodes now, and it's going to let us do high availability, but to do high availability, you have to have 3 nodes with a public interface. So that new node that we added, this 5780, I put another card in it and hooked it up to the public and the private interfaces so that we can do high availability. Just note that you have to have 3. Auto placement's fine. And hit install. And this just wants you to set a password for your interface. Just go ahead and do that. Hit create. And now we're configuring. Let's see what Maz is doing, just for fun. And we're deploying. So bootstrapping is in progress. So this takes a couple of hours. I'm going to let this bootstrap, and then we'll continue the video when it's done. And it's done. The region has been deployed. It took probably 2.5 hours, so let's get started. Let's manage the region. So things have changed a little bit. You might have seen this, but now it offers you the access files. So we'll do that. Let's open this in a new tab. And we'll pop the credentials open. Okay, there's the dashboard. So admin. and your password. Here we are. So, pretty much the same stuff. There's a lot of different things, but we're going to go over a lot of this stuff in other videos. But there shouldn't be any instances. The GUI's moving along pretty well. That's good. Uh, Images. Let's see what we offer. So, we have 1404 and 1604 available. That's good. Let's go ahead and set up access and security here. So we have the default group. Let's create an all group so that we can have access. I've had a lot of questions about, I create an instance, but I can't access it. Well, it's usually because of the security group. So I just create an all group and just add all of the egress is always there to any port, but then I add all three main protocols, all IMCP on ingress, so that you won't have those issues. You know, it's for testing. You don't have to worry about it. We don't need much security here. And go ahead and add UDP as well. Okay, that's good. So now we have a security group. Let's go back. Now we need a key. So a key pair. I prefer to use PuTTY, so I use PuTTY keygen. So let's go to the PuTTY download page. And we'll find keygen. There it is, PuTTY gen. We can run that. And then we'll generate a key and just move your mouse around. Okay, now we have our key. So this is the public key that we will use, and then we'll use the private key file in PuTTY. So we'll take the public key right here, we'll copy it, go back to your dashboard, create a key pair, and we'll just call this my name. And create the key pair. I'm sorry, that's not what we should have done. Let's go to access and security again. We're going to create we'll just delete that key pair real quick. We should have imported a key pair. So let's import a key pair again, and then we'll paste that key that we got from PuTTY keygen. Import key pair. Make sure you have all of it copied. Oh. There we go. That's better. Import key pair. So now we have a key. And that's pretty much the main things that you need to worry about before you start up an instance. We do need some floating IPs. Let's go to network. Let's just take a look at network topology just for a second. So now we kind of have this drag, kind of Juju Charm looking animation. Let's go to admin and networks. So we have the external network. So that's fine. We can actually add, let's go take a look at system information. We're just kind of looking around here, getting used to the new lay of the land. We also have containers options in here. So we want to do that too if we want to mess with Docker or something like that. Might do that here in the future. Let's look at hypervisors. So we ended up with 3, so we got 6 CPUs available. But that's high availability for 1 machine loss. Got to remember that. So let's go to project again. Let's go to instances, and we'll just create one on the fly here. Let's launch an instance. We'll just call it test. And that's fine. We only have one source image. think we need to do that. Let's see, boot source image. Okay, here we go. And we'll just do 1404. We'll add that. And let's do flavors, and we'll probably need a small. Let's do that. Networks, here we go. We need the admin net. And then we'll create a floating IP later. Network ports, key pair. Let's go ahead and put, so it's already got that in there. That's good. So let's just go ahead and launch it. And while it's launching, then we can associate the floating IP. And so there's no IP, so we'll just add one. Just hit the plus. Add one, allocate IP. It'll pick one out of the public network. We got .4, that's good. Associate. Alright, it's spawning. While it's spawning, let's set up PuTTY. Let's save the private key file. We'll just save it to the desktop. We'll call it Chris. And let's go to PuTTY. And we'll create a test on that IP. And it was .4. And we can save it. But then we want to go SSH auth and browse for that key file. There it is. Hit open. That's good. And then save it again so it saves that file. That's good. And let's see what we're doing. Let's take a look at the instance. It says it's running. Take a look at the log. And we'll have to set all the console and stuff up like we did before. So it looks good. It's got a key. So let's see if we can open it up. Doesn't look like we can get to it yet. Okay, let's take another look. Let's see, we've got a key pair. Let's take a look at security again. Aha, so we need to add that all group. And people run into that all the time, so remember that. You can't just get into SSH with the default group. You have to have that all group. So let's try that again. And just restart it. Much better. There we go. And you shouldn't need a user ID, but go ahead and use Ubuntu. And we're going to authenticate with that key. Eventually. There it is. All right. Now we're in business. So we have bootstrapped. We've done the region. We've got instances going. We're going to take a look in the next videos. We're going to take a look at all this stuff. I've showed you, the DHCP stuff. The only things that I've done different to get this thing going. We've got some new hardware. We've got another node. We're going to test high availability. We're just going to take a look around and see what's going on in the newest version. We'll definitely take a look at Docker, maybe some containers, do things like that. Just a new refresh, new testing with the refresh software. So hope to see you in more videos. But we're on our way now.